Today, let's allow ourselves to imagine, not to escape, but to observe, to reflect on something deeper. You see, sometimes the answers to our hardest questions aren't hidden in ancient wisdom or buried deep in someone else's story. They're right here, right in front of us. But we, humans, we love to search for truth around the corner, in other people's books, in someone else's experience, as if the answer can't possibly be this close, as if truth needs to be chased, not noticed. But sometimes truth isn't distant. Sometimes it's closer than we're willing to accept. And maybe, just maybe, all it takes is to pause, to look around, to stop asking the world, and start asking yourself. I want to talk to you about a film, The Matrix Reloaded. Or rather, about one particular scene, the one where Neo meets the architect. To some, it's just another fragment of a sci-fi story, just pixels on a screen. But for others, it holds something much deeper, a meaning that only now, years later, becomes painfully clear. In The Matrix Reloaded, there's a moment that quietly passed over the minds of millions. A moment that didn't shout. It whispered. Neo enters a room, white, empty, no decoration, no distractions, just silence. Dozens, no hundreds, of monitors blinking around him. And in the center, a figure, the architect, the creator of the system, a program, the one who governs the structure of that simulated world. But this scene, it's not about plot. It's about us. It's about you. It's about that moment when illusions dissolve, when denial falls away, when you can no longer blame your mother, or your partner, or the government, or anyone, because now, you're alone with one thing, what you have created. On every screen, a different timeline, a version of you who said yes when you were afraid, a version who walked away when you should have stayed, a version who chose themselves, a version who didn't. And suddenly, this isn't a film anymore, it's you. It's your footage, your edit, your project. You're not just the main character, you're the writer, the director, and the audience. And the architect, calmly, asks you one question. What was your film about? You remember, don't you? How many times you turned away from the path you truly wanted to take? How many times you whispered to yourself, not now. Maybe later. I'm not ready. How can I? What if I fail? You saw the signs. You felt something in your chest. A quiet pull, a strange knowing. But you chose what was familiar, what felt safer, even if it cost you your spark. And now you're here, in your own white room, surrounded by the echoes of choices made. The movie of your life is playing on every screen, and for the first time, you're watching. You begin to realize each no, each not yet, each maybe someday, wasn't a pause. It was a fork in the road, a splice in the timeline, a cut in the film that changed the entire plot. This isn't fiction. This is your life. And if you're hearing this, if you're standing here in this still moment, your film isn't over. You can still pick up the pen, you can still rewrite. Because you are not just watching this story, you are the author. Yes, and a lot has already happened. You've walked far, you've lost, you've made mistakes, and no, you can't rewrite the past. But you can change what it means. You can turn pain into your foundation. You can make loss the turning point. You can transform fear into fuel, and now, here, you can press the button. The one that doesn't erase but reboots. Resetting your script doesn't mean abandoning your life. It means finally starting to listen. Not living by what's correct, but by what feels true. Sometimes you won't be able to explain why. Why you're leaving. Why you're beginning again. Why you're closing one door and opening another. And that's okay. You're not here to explain. You're here to align. This isn't for logic. This is for your soul, the part of you that finally woke up. Your white room isn't waiting at the end of your life. It's not some final judgment or divine review. It's here, right now, inside every quiet moment you dare to face yourself. You don't need to die to watch your film. You can look at the screens right now and choose a different path, the one where you don't abandon yourself, the one where you stop performing and start living, where you stop explaining and start being. One of the most dangerous beliefs we carry is this: if I made the wrong choice, it's over. If I took the wrong road, loved the wrong person, stayed in the wrong place, then this is it. This is my crack in the glass, and now I must live with it forever. But that's a lie. You can say to yourself, stop. This is not my ending. Even if you've walked 10 years in one direction, you still have the right to turn around. Even if you failed, you are not obligated to repeat your mistake just to prove to yourself you're not weak. Strength is not marching forward blindly. Strength is stopping when the path no longer feels like yours. Strength is rewriting the script when the story feels foreign. In the film of life, you can start from any frame. You can pick a new take. You can choose again. And you never have to explain why. Because you are both the writer and the lead always has the right to change the ending. Remember the iconic scene? Morpheus extends 2 pills to Neo. The red one, to know the truth. The blue one, to forget everything and return to the illusion. That moment became a symbol, the Great Awakening, the choice. But here's what most people miss. That moment doesn't happen once. You live it every single morning. Each day when you open your eyes, the 2 pills are there again. You choose. Do I stay in the pattern, or do I step beyond it? Do I react the way I always have, with fear, doubt, urgency? Or do I pause, just for a second, long enough to ask, who's directing my day? Most people take the blue pill because it's easier. It's comfortable to blame circumstances, to follow the script, to say, it's just how life is, because that's what everyone else does. But the red pill doesn't disappear. It returns, over and over. It appears every time you feel anxious, every time you're tempted, every time you're tired, confused, pulled by someone else's expectations. And in those moments, you're not just surviving a bad mood, you're standing at a doorway, one that leads either back to the matrix or forward into your own path. And here's the truth. There is no final exit, no permanent breakthrough, because awakening is not an event. It's a practice. It's a choice you make again and again, not just once, but every time the code tries to pull you back. One day, Neo understood. He wasn't just trapped inside the system. He was part of the system, a self-aware program. That's where the paradox begins. We live our lives thinking everything happens to us, that it's all about external circumstances, other people, places, systems, history. But then something shifts. You begin to notice. People follow patterns. Reactions repeat. Conversations loop. Even events feel pre-scripted. You start to wake up and life suddenly feels like a pre-written script. The same routine, the same faces, the same story. You wake up, check your phone, go through the morning ritual, get annoyed, grab your coffee, carry the weight of expectations. You feel tired before the day even begins. And then it hits you. Am I actually living or just executing a code? But here's what most forget. A program isn't just lines of code in a machine, it's a thought, a belief, a loop. I'm not enough. I always attract the wrong people. Nothing ever works out for me. It's the auto response you have when something goes wrong, the immediate emotional script you didn't even choose. But here's the miracle. A program can become aware, and when it does, it becomes consciousness. One day you pause. You hear the thought rise, but you don't believe it. I'm angry. I'm scared. I'm tired. I can't. And suddenly, you realize you are not the thought. You are the one hearing it, the one watching it pass, the one deciding whether to follow it or not. This is the shift. This is the exit. You don't fight the matrix. You don't destroy the system. You simply stop obeying it. You stop running the same emotional script. You stop reacting just because that's who I am. You stop living by code and start writing your own. You don't owe anyone an explanation. You don't need permission. You don't even need the right mood. You just need the moment you remember. You are more than your emotions, more than your memories, more than your thoughts. You are the observer. And the moment you become aware, the system loses control. That's not escape. That's evolution. You can talk about your childhood, about your country, your financial situation, your partner who didn't support you, your parents who gave you no choice, the system, the matrix, fate. You can build 100 stories around why things are the way they are. But eventually, there comes a moment, and it always comes, the moment when you finally see all of it was background. The choice? It was always yours. You could have walked away sooner. You could have spoken up. You could have trusted yourself. You could have tried. You could have begun. And you didn't. Not because you were broken, but because you were scared. Because the old story felt safer. Because the unknown felt too vast. So you stayed. In what you knew. In what felt familiar. In what hurt, but made sense. And when you see this, really see it, there's nothing more terrifying. Because now, there's no one left to blame. But that's also the gift. That's the turning point. Not for shame, not for guilt, but for rebirth, for a total reset. This is where the script starts over, with your hand finally on the pen. What if you stopped trying to fix the story and simply started writing a new one? What if you didn't need to explain yourself? What if you didn't owe the world a reason for changing your mind, starting over, or walking away? What if you just said, this chapter is done, and now I write differently? So much of life is spent trying to justify why we stayed, why we tolerated, why we didn't speak, didn't leave, didn't try. But the truth is simple. You don't need to defend your past to claim your future. You can say, I made a mistake. I stayed too long. I didn't listen. And still, you can start again. You can choose a new version of yourself, not because the old one was fake, but because you've grown beyond it. Life isn't about living one draft to the end. It's about editing in real time, choosing again, reclaiming authorship, and that's the beauty of it all. You don't need anyone's permission, because you've always been both, the main character and the writer. Wake up, phone, scroll, rush, stress, coffee, deadlines, frustration, fatigue, repeat. You tell yourself this is life, that it's just how things are, that everyone lives like this. But somewhere deep inside, a quiet question begins to rise. Is this really living? Or am I just performing a script? You weren't born to repeat. You weren't made to survive patterns. You were meant to wake up, to notice. The system runs in loops, until you interrupt it, until you pause, until you break the rhythm with a question that doesn't fit inside the code. You are not here to fulfill someone else's idea of what your life should be. You're not here to finish a loop just because it's running. You can stop right now and ask, whose program is this? Because until you question it, you'll live it. A program isn't just lines of code. It's not just software on a screen. It's a repeated thought, a belief you inherited, not chose. A sentence you've whispered to yourself so many times, you forgot it wasn't the truth. I'm not enough. I always mess it up. I don't deserve more. This is just how life is. But here's the truth. A program can wake up. It can look around and say, this isn't who I am anymore. That's when it becomes something else. It becomes consciousness. You start to feel it. You don't have to get angry. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to suffer for the sake of others. You are not your triggers. You are not your past. You are not your old code. You are the awareness behind it. The one who sees the program. The one who decides what runs and what ends. And in that moment, you stop reacting and start creating. That's the real shift. That's the real freedom. You don't fight the matrix. You don't destroy it. You outgrow it. You don't have to keep walking a path just because you've been on it for a while. You don't have to stay loyal to the story just because you spent years repeating it. You don't have to explain why it no longer fits. You can just know, feel it, and shift. You don't owe the pattern anything. You don't owe the past version of yourself a lifetime of loyalty. You are not a machine built to finish a task. You are a soul evolving in real time. And when the road you're on starts to feel like a performance, a prison, a borrowed identity, that's the sign. You can exit the loop. You can leave the character. You can end the act, not with drama, but with clarity. Because it's not about being fearless, it's about being real. It's about saying, this no longer feels like me. And that's enough. You can blame the country you were born in, the family that raised you, the job that drained you, the partner who didn't believe in you, the system, the school, the matrix, fate. You can name 1,000 reasons why your life became what it is. But eventually, if you're honest, you'll reach the moment where you stop pointing outward and start looking inward. And suddenly it all shifts. All the things you blamed, all the stories you clung to, they fall away. And you see the truth. They were just the background, scenery, environment, noise. But the choice? That was always yours. You could have walked away sooner. You could have stayed silent or spoken up. You could have trusted your voice. You could have begun, even scared. But you didn't. Not because you were weak. Not because you were broken. But because you weren't ready. And now, you are. And now that you see it, really see it, it shakes you. Because there's no one left to blame. No more story to hide behind. No mask to wear. Just you. And the truth. And at first, that's terrifying. Because now, every step forward is yours alone. You can't hand it to fate. You can't hand it to the system. You can't pretend you didn't know. But that fear, that discomfort, that's not your downfall. That's the doorway. This isn't the end. This is the reboot. The moment where you stop rewinding the same film and start writing the sequel. Not to prove anything. Not to fix the past. But because you are done living someone else's version of your life. You don't need to punish yourself for the old scenes. You don't need to stay stuck in a role that no longer fits. You are allowed to change. You are allowed to start again. You are allowed to write a version of your story that feels real, even if it's the 10th draft. Because the main character, like always, gets one more take. Always. When you finally accept that your life is the result of your own choices, something shifts. You stop being the victim, you become the director, and the camera is already rolling. This moment, right now, is a new scene. So film it differently. At first, it's unsettling. Realizing that so many scenes in your life feel like they were written by someone else. As if you were just the actor, reciting lines from a script you never chose. But here's the truth. You are the screenwriter. Every thought, every compromise, every quiet, "I'll just endure it," adds a new line to the story. And now, you're back in the white room. In front of you, a screen. And on that screen, the footage of your day, today. Watch it honestly. No excuses. No, I was tired. No, it just happened. And ask yourself, what's the title of this film? The one called My Day. Right now. Today. Waiting for change? Just like yesterday? Trapped in circumstance? I didn't know what to do. Then ask again. What do you want the title to be? The courage to be me? Turning point? Awakening? The beginning of a new life? Whatever that title is, live by it. Direct your next scene as if that's the story you were always meant to tell. Let the next shot not be a continuation of the old film, but the very first frame of a brand new one. A story where you are the director, the lead actor, and the universe itself. Thank you for being here. Wishing you awareness, strength, and the freedom to be you. See you in the next video. Take care. Goodbye.